All right, welcome back everybody for our last series of the day. It's going to be a special one. It's Trump versus RDU. Now, this one is a matchup we probably wouldn't see very often unless it was online. And that almost happened this past weekend at the Xfinity Hearthstone Invitational that Monk and I casted. Isn't that right, Monk?
Yeah, that's indeed correct. Both these players were fairly successful in the Xfinity Hearthstone tournament, with RDU getting to the finals and Trump unfortunately being stopped at the third and fourth, or in the semifinals by Show, who eventually won the tournament. Uh, Trump, he brought a very similar lineup. In fact, I believe this is the same exact lineup that he brought to the Xfinity tournament, so he's probably very confident with it. On the other hand, RDU, he essentially switched up his classes completely, bringing up three different classes altogether. In the Xfinity Hearthstone tournament, he brought Hunter, Druid, and Tempo Mage, whereas now he's bringing very unlikely choices of, well, still Hunter, but of course Rogue and Priest. That's very interesting because I don't believe I've ever seen RDU play Priest ever in my life.
Yeah, that's a really interesting observation. I'm trying to think about it, and I agree. I don't think I've really seen RD play Priest. I've seen him play almost every other class. Hunter and Rogue are two classes that he's played a lot. He's played a lot of Druid, Warlock, Warrior even. Where's his Priest play been? I have no clue. In fact, RDU once made a joke about how like he wouldn't play Priest or would ban Priest, and yet now here he is. I guess it could be a red herring to throw off the scent. Maybe people are going to be looking out for his VODs. I know, players like RDU would watch his own VODs to make sure he gets all the information edge as possible. So perhaps this is him just trying to see if he can throw in something there. Or maybe he's going to bust out that long-awaited pirate priest that I've been hearing about, Monk,
Oh,
and dominate Trump.
the infamous Fire Priest that has been Trump's weakness in tournaments lately, of course, right?
Pirate priest. Yeah, you laugh, but yeah, actually you're totally justified. I can't even think of a funny combination. I think game
All
number
right.
one's about to begin. I love that we're seeing 6 different classes as well. It's a very traditional lineup from Trump versus a little mix-up from RDU. What's it going to be? Priest versus Warrior. Oh, boy.
Oh wow. I didn't know, like, I totally wouldn't have expected to cast a Priest versus Warrior today, especially a Priest played by and piloted by RDU. We'll have to see, like, how well he knows this matchup. I know RDU is a player that prides himself in just playing the best decks that he knows are at the best current metagame decks, and not just, like, being known for, like, Priest or Druid, for example. He plays whatever he thinks is best, and I've got to really, really respect him for that.
That's true. And I think it's cool to start branching out. Maybe here, like it's a relatively low risk environment as well to be playing in this type of environment where it's more pool play and it's less elimination. So he can experiment. Maybe he can try a list out. I see Harrison Jones is already very effective against Warrior. And if he has Harrison Jones, he's got good thought steals. He has really good Cabal Shadow Priest targets. I guess the key factor will be like, will he also have the Shrink Meisters, right? Will he have the Recombobulator if he steals the Sludge Belcher? Those things have been in and out of the metagame or based off of Priest's preferences. So I'm waiting to see if RDU has that.
Yeah, it's true. Pretty slow start from RDU now. I know you were involved in a pretty famous cast with involving you, Amaz, and Firebat, where Amaz and Firebat really debated on who's favored in this matchup.
Yeah. I
And
just sat there with my popcorn
I
watching
don't
them
believe
fight.
I don't believe a conclusion was ever actually reached. Like, what's your
Well, I think
opinion
they
on this
did
matter?
conclude. They concluded that both of them were right and the other one was wrong. That was the conclusion.
Pretty
And
fair.
I think that's a good summary of just in general how you have to take, like some players, their opinions are definitely noteworthy and should be respected. But even then, guys like Kalento and Strifecrow even, their opinions are from one point of view. And sometimes you can see a matchup from a different perspective. Like one of the most eye-opening experiences is to talk to Shaman main players. because a lot of them feel like Shaman's actually decent, or maybe it's a little bit on the weak side, but yet they still feel like some matchups are different from what the public perception is, and it applies to a lot of classes that are underplayed, even Priest too. So I think I don't really particularly think one class is favored. I actually think it's kind of 50-50 depending on the thought steals. But generally speaking, I did enjoy being part of that cast among, even though it might seem like I was just kind of like, what's going on? It was fun
Yeah,
stuff.
I probably would have been pretty happy about being in that cast too. It's seems like a pretty two interesting people to cast with, especially when they fight over a certain matchup. Like they're pretty friendly, obviously they're on the same team and everything, but it's like
Yeah.
it's like a
Yes,
husband.
yes, they are.
It's like a husband and wife, and like being in the middle of it and just like like you said, enjoying your popcorn.
Question becomes, is Firebat a bottom deck or a top deck? I don't know.
That's pretty deep into Hearthstone, I have to say, or maybe not. It's not even a Hearthstone question. We'll see.
It was totally on topic, relevant Hearthstone question. Taking a look at the play there, I actually think using that circle there to gain the board tempo is really interesting, because I know a lot of times this matchup can get very grindy, and as a result you can run out of threats. So this is definitely a risk that was taken from RDU, but his hand is looking pretty feeble. Like, you want to save Harrison for a higher impact. Fiery War Axe is one of the least impactful cards this entire matchup. It shuts down the clerics, low impact minions, and you want to shut down the Death Bites, or even preferably that Gore Howl, which if RDU has been paying attention to Trump's previous tournaments, he should know that he has been running Gore Howl.
Yeah, Gore Howl is like one of the key defining cards in this matchup. If Trump is allowed to just use the full extent of the Gore Howl, then it's pretty much like he's going like at least 3 or 4 for 1 with just that one card. And
Wow.
even great thought steals might not even be able to overcome that. Really great turn for RDU, just drawing all those cards.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
Along with good thought steals, I feel like that's how you really win that matchup. Just getting your cards out there. Whereas Trump, he hasn't gotten his acolytes at all, so he's going to be behind in the card count.
Well, it's still like not an easy way to deal with things, because you just look at it, and no matter what, Artie is going to be drawing cards, man. Yeah. And if he's drawing cards, it's how he's climbing back in the resource battle, which is why he could weigh that circle of healing. And if it ended up paying off here.
It feels like Trump's only turn here is just to Death Spite and kill off the Belcher. But yeah, after that, the slime that you're left with, or the slime that you have left, is kind of a detriment. You actually don't want that on the field, because your opponent can just attack into it and then heal up for even more cards.
That's right. It's a really good point.
You can.
So I guess you just armor up after that. You could play Armor Smith, but Armor Smith also has no impact as well.
Yeah, so he actually trades away this the slime. Very good decision from Trump.
Or so he thinks, until Harrison collects all this value.
Yeah, Harrison will probably almost certainly come down, but I feel like this is actually not too bad for Trump, because he knows that the Gore Howl, or the Harrison, is gone now, so he can actually use the full extent of Gore Howl.
You're right. Assuming that it's not the slime taking the first hit here for 7 damage. Yeah. And also one of these things too is that Gore Howl is also is a high investment of your health in order to get a lot of card advantage. And if Priest can just maintain like reasonable amount of board without this Lay of the Narus, for example, they can be such heavy hitters, then you can't really get too much Maj out of the Gore Howl. So I'm looking at this Dr. Boom here to have high impact with the Boom bots.
Yeah, at this point, I think Trump has kind of given up on limiting RDU's cards. RDU can have as many cards as he wants. Trump needs to pretty much outvalue RDU at this moment, and Gore Howl Well, Gorehal and Dr. Boom will be really good first steps, especially because even though RDU has drawn so many cards, he hasn't gotten his first Shadow Word Death yet.
Yet, I mean, it's just as simple as a click of a few mouse strokes, and you'd be fishing deep for that Shadow Word Death. And also, like, interestingly enough, he has to be careful not to like overdraw too much because there is a lot of healing plays with, the Holy Nova. But if he overdraws, he's going to be dumping a lot of the cards, and there's definitely a proper sequencing to all this.
Yeah, he'll probably actually want to get rid of at least one of these clerics in the future turns. Like, perhaps sacrifice your clerics into the boombots. Hope that the boombots hit Sylvanas, for example.
Mm-hmm.
This is another good play that I was actually considering, just going for face. Putting on the aggression, and once... Well, there's still hope. Okay, so that's actually pretty good.
Wow. Yeah. Now he only draws one card.
Unfortunately, one card too late is that Shadow Word Death. This is
still fine.
Still very awkward for Trump to deal with. A lot of warrior lists these days have been cutting that one silence card, that one owl or spellbreaker. So the Sylvanas is going to be just really hard to deal with.
Yeah, I really love the pressure that RDU's applied from the very beginning. It's almost reminiscent of how you play like the Priest versus Druid, where you have to seize control of the board early and not relinquish it whatsoever. So that way they can't ever get in a position to pressure you with like combo. And it's in the same line of thinking where you put this board up and you really gain card advantage. And that way he can never really truly come back without a brawl. And even if he brawls, you have so much ammo. You can be playing minions. You can be drawing more cards. I'm pretty sure Trump is just going to die. Maybe not next turn, but the turn afterwards is a very realistic possibility.
Yeah, we talked about Gorehal just being like one of the best cards in this matchup, but unfortunately Trump can't really make use of this Gorehal because he's at such a low health. So he's actually has to rely on this really risky play and hope that his opponent doesn't seal out, which he does.
Oh, that's game over as far as I know. And, well, RDU does it again with Priest. And how's he going to choose to end it? Just with the hero power. No BM.
RDU's like, hey, this class is easy. Why don't I play it more? And if RDU, this is indeed the first time RDU has played Priest, he might actually have a 100% win rate against Priest. So that's better than Amaz, better than Zeta-Lot, better than all the other Priest players out there.
I have to imagine that he's played Priest somewhere in another tournament that we just don't recall at the moment, whether it's one of those Zotacs or, another qualifier for event that he's played in. So I think RDU probably has played Priest somewhere.
Fair enough. So RDU, he gets that one class out of the way that he's probably the least comfortable with, although I imagine a player of RDU's caliber is comfortable with all decks. Now he has the Hunter and the Rogue to get out there. And I actually still, even though RDU has 2 decks left, I might favor Trump in this matchup because he still has his Warrior, which almost seems like a guaranteed win against the rest of RDU's lineup, be it the Rogue or the Hunter.
Almost. Although, if Trump decides to bust out the Warrior and then it gets awkward draws, I've seen Hunter still be able to beat it. It's not a guaranteed thing. Meanwhile, I've seen Warrior draw awfully against Rogue and still beat it. So I don't really know if that matchup is going to be unlosable, really. Like, people always tell me it's 50-50, but I still rarely see the Rogue ever come out on top, assuming it's a normal oil Rogue. If it's control Rogue, which some people are making a case for now that the Emperor is out, then maybe that's a different story.
Yeah. A lot of people were expecting Emperor to go in a lot of Rogue decks, but so far I haven't seen it, and it's going to be indeed a pretty bad matchup for RDU. Trump queuing up with the Warrior again, and he hits the Phase Hunter, I believe. I don't think many people are playing mid-range Hunter these days. It's...
Nah.
Yeah.
Mid-range Hunter is It's actually decent on ladder because everyone's playing Druid on ladder. And mid-range hunter like kills that. Also, not to mention that people are also playing face hunters, so people play normal warrior. So mid-range hunter is like has this weird niche where it's like preying on on warriors and druids. But other than that, in competitive format, it's like mid-range hunter is so easy to exploit with rogues, with like it's like too slow for mech mage. You know, like it just feels like it's not really consistent enough. Or maybe even better way to put it is that Face Hunter is just so much better.
I actually I've been talking to Nightman lately, and he's told me that pretty much every matchup involving mid-range hunter is close to 50-50. But again, you have to take Nightman's word for it because he pretty much exclusively plays mid-range hunter
Right.
online.
He's a bona fide hunter player.
Yeah. He does say that like obviously face hunter is unfavored for mid-range hunter, and then demon and all the warlocks are favored in the favor of mid-range hunter though. So I guess that's something. So warrior, he didn't draw badly. I feel like in order to win this matchup, Trump has to draw badly. He can't get like Fire War Axe, Cruel Taskmaster, Armor Smith as a start. That's pretty much the dream start.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm trying to like evaluate the strength of Leok here, and I think it's okay. It's like you said though. If Trump just draws poorly, which he's starting to hit a turn where maybe he doesn't have anything to do, will he be struggling at all? That Armor Smith also is problematic because it's going to gain a lot of HP. 4 health is so big in this matchup. Actually 6 because of the 2 hits it takes.
Yeah. Fortunately, the bow will be able to take care of the Armor Smith, and Trump won't get too much value out of it. Oh, this is interesting.
Just go for it. Wow.
Going all in. I guess this might be the stance you have to take with Hunter against Warrior. It's such an unfavorable matchup that you can't allow the Warrior any breathing room in order to draw into such value cards as like Sludge Belcher and Shield Maiden in the later game. You have to rely on the Warrior pretty much drawing dead for 1 or 2 turns.
Well,
Unfortunately, Brawl will come down, which punishes RDU's decision.
and oh no, it's the spider. But it's okay. You know, RDU won the Sylvanas RNG. He lost the Brawl RNG. Almost the same exact odds. Shield Slam on the 1-1. Just for good measure. Why not? Well, that sort of works, you know, having the bow. Hopefully you cross your fingers for no Harrison Jones, but you can't be playing scared.
And will Trump draw that Harrison Jones? We might as well see it. Oh, Shield Maiden. That's another good one.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, this matchup is really difficult for Face Hunter. Just because the Warrior has so many tools, and if Trump like had a reasonable hand, which he did, then you know RDU is just completely boned, and that Alexstrasza confirms it. In fact, you can be setting up for a way to kill your opponent the next turn by playing Grommash.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just Gromashing into the Hunter Creeper, and then I would say actually you can clear the second part of you can clear off one of the spiders here. It doesn't really matter because you have lethal anyway with Alexstrasza on the next turn.
Wow, Leroy.
Leroy,
How much is that?
I actually haven't seen that combo in a while.
6 plus that's 12, 15 damage. Oh man, that was close. Jeez, it's been so long. Remember when that was 6 mana?
Yeah, imagine. You remember when like you could fit a Buzzard in with all of that?
Yeah.
And it was exactly the same amount of mana. Buzzard unleashed Leroy. It was 8 mana.
Now it's 13.
Still possible with
yeah.
Emperor.
Oh gosh, you're right. All right, well guys, we have a tied series. RDU drops game 2 to Trump's Warrior. And now Druid versus Mage coming up Oh, sorry, Druid and Mage up against the Hunter and the Rogue. Now, I think if Trump plays this Mech Mage deck, because I don't think I've ever seen Trump play Freeze Mage, in fact.
He's played it on stream before, but yeah, you're right.
Right, not in
I don't
tournament.
believe he's ever seen it in a tournament.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a deck he's perhaps not as comfortable with.
Well, if he's playing Mech Mage, then that's definitely more interesting because I feel like that's like good, decent against Hunter. Uh, a little like okay against Rogue, and Druid's like almost in the same exact boat. It's like okay against Hunter, and then like pretty good against Rogue, but sometimes not. And then it becomes like a 50-50. I don't really know who's the clear-cut favorite from this point moving on.
Yeah, I agree. It does look like a 50-50, and that's really great because usually when we say it's a 50-50, it's because both players are using the same exact classes. So we have
Right.
to give props for both players here for slightly diversifying their lineups.
Well, it is a lot, man. It's 6 different classes. That's what it is. We're just missing the good old trio of Paladin, Shaman, and Warlock. And then we have every class represented here. Now, what's interesting is that I think Rogue is still on top in BlackRock after BlackRock Mountain. This is what a lot of players are trying to convince me. I talked to, Tom Fleur. I've talked to a few other guys who are really known, like within the ladder scene. I don't know if people know him, but like Casey. And they're like, man, Rogue is just really good post BlackRock Mountain. I was like, oh yeah, is the Emperor good in that? And they're like, no, it's just Rogue is really good right now because its matchups line up really favorably with what other classes people perceive to be good, like Druid. So a lot of Rogue players are very confident still in this matchup, Monk. And if RDU, who's definitely one of the players who admits that Rogue is one of his best classes, I think he's going to be feeling very good right now.
Yeah, especially with that opening. He can get a pretty decent Van Cleef, but I think it's going to be shut down with the Keeper in Trump's hand. You say that the Rogue is really good on the ladder scene, but we have heard other opinions. For example, over the weekend with the Xfinity Hearthstone tournament, Rogue went an astonishing 1-7. 1-7. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Almost every player that played Rogue in the round of 16 lost and didn't advance to the round of 8.
There is also another interesting correlation. I don't want to point out too much, but there was
I know what you're going to say.
Okay. But Monk, you should be the one saying it then.
Okay, but sure. It's interesting correlation that a lot of Archon players played Rogue in the in the opening of the round of 16, and a lot of them didn't make it.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of the losses were from like Firebat stubbornly trying to make Rogue work, and it just didn't pan out for him, and he got 0-3'd. So I understand your point exactly, but yeah, it's actually really interesting the more I think about it, because the Rogue deck should still be really powerful. There's nothing that indicates that it's not. You still have really good Blade Flurry wasn't nerfed. It's not like Lotheb got any stronger in terms of like its cost. The only thing would be the Emperor, and even then, Rogue is really good at dealing with stuff that floods the boards because it's cheaper because of Blade Flurry.
That's true. Although I do feel like the two changes that have been made to in BlackRock Mountain so far were the addition of Quickshot and Emperor. And Phase Hunters is just so popular, and I feel like that's one of the reasons Rogue has been getting shut down in the Xfinity tournament, where we saw, I believe, like 7 or 8 Phase Hunters out of a total 16 or 15 players, which is the majority of players.
Yeah, that's a completely valid answer, I think. The Face Hunter has been really powerful. And then some people brought Warrior too, which just happened to line up too. Oh, Sap! Sap's also a card that Raynand was saying gets a lot better as BlackRock Mountain comes in, because, if you're playing the Dragon card for Paladin, for example, I'm forgive me for not knowing at the moment, but if it makes the next Dragon, cost
Dragon
2
console.
less,
Yeah.
and then you sap it, it's like, well, cool, and congratulations, you just did nothing. Rogue still gains a lot of tempo, so it's really interesting to see like that even some of the old cards, their power level fluctuates, depends on how they interact with the new cards.
Although if you do sap that card, I guess you can replay it for 3 mana, perhaps. Because it is a dragon, right? Dragon consort.
Right. No. I think oh, no, I was talking about like if you benefit, like say they play the Dragon Consort, they kill it, and you play another thing like Ysera for 7, then it's like you just sap it, and then they can't play the next turn, and you
No,
just
fair
lost
enough.
like a lot of mana. So versus other classes would have a hard time dealing with it. So I think that was the logic. Lotheb coming down here and really putting a lot of pressure onto the board, especially because it's coming up on a sprint turn. And Trump has... Oh, I was going to say he has Harrison Jones. But he also has Dr. Boom.
Trump has a lot of the answers he'll need for against Rogue. Rogue was looking at a pretty dominant position, but Dr. Boom and Harrison, probably the 2 best cards in Druid right now, or at least in Trump's deck against Rogue.
Wow, he's got Fan and Eviscerate to clear Dr. Boom. That's one of the cleanest ways I've ever seen Dr. Boom be dealt with. The only thing is if you cross your fingers for the Boom Boss not to kill the Drake.
Let's see what it is. Oh!
Oh! Wow, those are pretty high damage Boom Bots though. Dang.
Yeah, that was really close.
A little risky actually from Mario now that I think about it. Because what if he killed the Drake? I know it's a really unlikely possibility, but what would if he had done?
He probably would have had to hit the Dr. Boom, and then he'd be putting himself in forcing nature.
Combo range, right. Alright, well that weapon is Gonorino, and he's going to draw another card that draws more cards, but he doesn't need that. He's got Combo, and I'm pretty sure RDU has to clear this Harrison, otherwise he dies just straight up to Force Nature Savage Roar.
Unfortunately, he doesn't really have an answer, and that might just be it. Oh, he makes the read. Good for him. But
There
unfortunately, this gives Trump the ability to develop the...
Ooh, he's got an Innervate. That means he's got the 22 damage combo Monk. Alright, so... Alright, is there really a need to drop the Ancient of Lore? I feel like just dropping scenarios, having anything stick, and then wombo your opponent.
There might still be the possibility that your opponent can lethal you next turn with some creative some kind of crazy South Sea deckhand combo, so you might as well go for this play.
Oils. Always believe. Dude, these Kazan Mystics in Rogue, like, I keep seeing it, but I've yet to see it, like, truly pay off. Is it because the matchup against Hunter is that bad?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of similar to why Kazan Mystic. You see a lot of Kazan Mystic in Druid because that matchup is just so bad. And I think the Mech Mage versus Rogue matchup is closer to 50-50, but you also want to make that matchup slightly better as well. So Kazan Mystic perhaps not a bad choice, but it really does hurt your matchup against Druids and pretty much any other class that doesn't have secrets, obviously.
All right, well, Trump is going to Savage Roar this game out, and RDU is going to be down to his last life here in the Conquest. Trump's last remaining deck is the Mage, and RDU has the Rogue and the Hunter remaining. It's going to be tough, man. I feel like that Hunter deck can really get blown out of the water sometimes by a really powerful Mage start, similar to what we saw with the Mech Warrior earlier today, beginning of the series, with Life Coach versus Tides.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed at the previous game, actually, because Trump didn't go for the BM. I would have liked to see something like do that combo, and then when your opponent is at 2 health, you innervate out the second Savage Roar, just to show him, like, oh, I have, like, 10 damage over or something. But,
or even better, okay. I like to get carried away. I'm going to save it for the tournament. If I get to show off some really good BM, man, I have some good ideas. I'm actually really glad that Bane of Doom can hit the face, for example, because that allows for some epic BM potential.
Wait, Bane of Doom can hit the face, I think.
Yeah, it can.
Are you sure? Oh, it's a character, right?
Yeah, it can hit 2 damage to any character, even yourself. You can hit yourself in the face for 2.
Well, maybe
and that's where the BM potential is skyrockets, man.
Maybe you can Bane of Doom yourself, hope for a Mal'Ganis, and then still die because you realize that Bane of Doom's attack is on first.
Yeah, dude, that's what's gonna happen.
But yeah, next match will be Face Hunter. RDU actually still has Rogue or Hunter left against the Mage, so I think RDU will probably likely queue up the Rogue yet again because he does have that Kazan Mystic, and that's probably going to be a fairly favored matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Rogue has a lot of powerful AoE. The backstab SI7 combinations can be really good. But RDU is not on the coin. So he doesn't have the extra card, which means his backstab runs out. Like, it needs to be followed up by an SI7 agent or a Van Cleef or something. Otherwise, it's just going to be sitting dead and he has nothing to show for it on board.
Yeah, Rogue's strength is really clearing your opponent's board and then developing a minion on the same turn. But if you just use your backstab as deal 2 damage and you don't have something to combo it with, you're essentially using like kind of a worse Holy Smite at that point.
Absolutely.
Although the benefit of backstab is one of the benefits of backstab, I guess, is you can't Holy Fire or you can't backstab face in your opening turn. So that makes it less possible for you to make Dennis plays, I guess.
Listen, man, isn't Dennis like a top Chinese player now?
Oh, I thought he was like a top American player. Like, I've seen Dennis in the top 100 ranks.
Yeah, but I think
year.
there's an actual Chinese player named Dennis, and he like competes in Gold League and stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
Do you think that's just his name, like his English name, or he actually got it from...
No, I think he did an interview and said that he thought it was so funny, so he called himself Dennis.
That's pretty meta.
Right. Just so that way he could like be like, guys, I'm Dennis, but he's really not. I don't know. I guess it was funny to him at the time.
It's also makes for amusing small talk in cast, so props to him.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Wow. Water Elemental and is pretty powerful here. You can follow with Pilot Shredder if he doesn't answer it. Or even better yet, if he's like forced to sap, you just play it again and then like put a lot of pressure onto the board. Like Rogue is in a really tough spot here, but that's where this preparation actually comes into play because the Pilot Shredder can buy a lot of time if you combine it with the prep sap.
Now, we actually haven't seen Trump use Water Elemental in his Mech Mage decks before, so I have to think this might be a tech card from Trump, maybe targeting like rogues and base hunters, for instance.
Wow, I was not anticipating RDU keeping that, but I guess he wants to go for this. I guess he's going to keep this blade for the flurry anyways.
Yeah, he actually has a pretty good turn here.
Whoa, actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Backstab prep fan. Or prep flurry. Yeah. Oh, wait, I guess I just ordered this wrong. You don't need a flurry at all.
I would say that's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, not even having to use his flurry. And now I would say RDU is in a pretty dominant position. Having board
it's much better, man.
He also has the flurry to back him up, plus initial AoE and Fan of Knives. He could have actually gone for a bigger Van Cleef to try to end the game, but I guess...
Yeah, I thought he was going to utilize prep somehow, like prep fan or something, so that way he can get like the 10-10. But yeah. I guess he just decided to take it the safe route.
I would like to see a Van Cleef that's slightly bigger than a 6-6 because it can get answered by a Fireball so easily. So maybe going all in on even like an 8-8 or somehow a 10-10. I think I would prefer that.
Right. Originally what I thought he was going to do was backstab, prep fan, like basically go all in. Prep fan, blade flurry, and then Van Cleef, and then use the Power Shredder to trade in whatever remained. But like now that he drew prep sprint, I think he's still okay because look at what he's going to pick up, man. A second blade flurry, another like an oil, so he's going to be in a good spot here.
Now the question here is, which of these do you clear? Do you value the 4/4 more or the mech that's on the board? And if I were in this position, I would actually probably eviscerate the mech. The 4/4 doesn't seem that relevant because nothing on your board has 4 health at this point. And wow, RDU holds. He's gonna go for. That means he's gonna set up for Azure Drake into Blade Flurry next turn.
Yeah, he wants to go for the greed, and he's not going to get punished because there's no way to stop that from happening. Like Blade Flurry is one of the hardest cards to counter other than Lotheb. There's really, like, even if you destroy the opponent's weapon, there's chances are he can just re-equip it and immediately go for it again. Trump, in the meantime, what can he do? He has Mad Scientist, so that's somewhat resilient against Blade Flurry. I mean, your opponent's holding, he just like sprinted into nothing, so he has to have some kind of Blade Flurry play. You have to make yourself as resilient as possible, but how do you do it?
The thing is, none of your minions have more than 3 attack. So you can't really play around it that way. I guess the creatures that are most resilient to Blade Flurry are Mad Scientist, which has a Death Rattle, and Piloted Shredder, which also has a Death Rattle. Also, you can try to clear up this board and do a lot of trades. That's also a possibility for playing around Blade Flurry. Yep. I would like to see Mad Scientist into Piloted Shredder here. Developing
you can do both. Right.
Yeah, that's... as well. That doesn't play around Blade Flurry as much, but it's more aggressive.
Well, now Blade Flurry is going to destroy almost the entire board.
Yeah, he doesn't even need that Azure Drake.
Right. I think he should Blade Flurry first. Oh, no, just kidding. You don't want the Mirrored Entity. Forgot about the Mad Scientist. It's just, I guess, the very off chance that your opponent might have the exact minion to kill you. But Lotheb's the safer bet for sure.
Yeah, what I like about Lotheb is there's no minions off the Piloted Shredder that could possibly trade into the Lotheb. Like right now, if he played Azure Drake, then a ping plus this Puddle Stomper would have been able to trade as well.
Yeah, there's a few other minions. There's a few minions with the hero power could. The One-Eyed Cheat, Millhouse, and Succubus. Maybe Mana Addict sometimes, but... Wow, really dominant spot again, just because the Blade Flurry #2. Oh, wait, there's a Drake that comes out the other end, of course, the secrets. So that complicates it.
I guess you can eviscerate one of the 3/2s and then SI agent the other. You can also just
let him have the SI.
You can also just let him have the Azure Drake into eviscerate into SI. That seems a little better. Wait, that's a
you don't have enough mana for that though.
Yeah.
Maybe what if you just like Drake and then Drake SI is okay. Or Drake eviscerates a little bit better too.
Yeah.
Use that spell power.
Drake Eviscerate also lets you fit in a hero power, so yeah.
Yep,
I
exactly.
Like
okay, so he's gonna also Blade Flurry down so he can spread out. Just because he had that oil, so I thought maybe he wanted to keep it for the game-ending damage, but either way, he's putting his opponent in a really uncomfortable spot. Trump picks up Mad Scientist. That's an okay thing to taunt. And unfortunately, I think he'd like to use his Drake to trade as opposed to Time Rewinder.
Yeah. A Time Rewinder Drake would be pretty good, but there's too much damage on the board right now. You expect your opponent to have at least 1 oil in their hand, so you probably want this board fairly clear.
Oh, he is going to rewind, huh? I mean, he's recognizing that he's behind. And this is his way to try to come back into it. He is giving up a lot of mana, though. Like, tempo to his opponent.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the second Frostbolt. That's pretty fun, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's missing 1 mana in order
to... He just can't play
these creatures.
Oh gosh. Okay, so he should frostbolt the Drake and then taunt up, right? Otherwise, he just might get blown out death-wise. I guess
I,
I guess
yeah,
it's inconsequential.
I don't think the spell power is that relevant based on what's on the field right now. Like the spell power buffs backstab to 3 and eviscerate to 5.
Right.
Phantom Knives to 2. So there's not really any 3 damage spells in Rogue, so I think this is fine.
This is lethal, by the way. The Sharp Sword Oil, the weapon can push through, eviscerate, SI. And actually, you might not even need that. You can just eviscerate with the Blood Mage. So that is going to do it for game number 4. And we're going to go to the final game of the series here, where the winner takes it and improves the standings going into week number 4. And we have Hunter versus the Mech Mage, right? That's what it is?
Yep. And we started off this this broadcast with Mech Warrior versus Face Hunter. And it kind of makes sense, kind of fitting to end it off with another Mech deck versus another Face Hunter.
Man, just like good old times, Monk. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it was 2 days ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, unfortunately, RDU and Trump, unfortunately for Trump, he didn't get to meet RDU in the finals of the Xfinity Hearthstone tournament, but he's going to get a chance here, I guess. Neither player is actually going to Sea Story Cup, is that correct?
That's right. No, RDU's coming to Sea Story Cup.
Oh, RDU's coming?
He's in a group with Toida, Nimsh, and Wealthy Druid.
Yeah,
which I don't really know much about Wealthy Druid. I know a lot about Nimsh, and Toida is always an X factor, like a wild card, because he sometimes has difficulty competing for health reasons. But if he's on point, he's actually a really good player.
Yeah, definitely agree. He qualified for the round of 16 of the European portion of BlizzCon.
Right, and then
he wasn't able
go.
to. Yeah, very unfortunate.
Yeah. Really talented at card games in general. Let's take a look at the last game and see if RDU can start off the week right with a victory over Trump, carrying over good vibes and an omen over to Seat Story Cup 3. He's going to miss the first mana play, though. That's really big.
Yeah. This it's actually looking really good for Trump, I have to say. He has the key card in this matchup, which is the Goblin Blast Mage that can clear a lot of the Haunted Creeper tokens. And not only does he have one of those key cards, he has 2 of them. Pretty perfect, I would say.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Now, Noyotron just goes 1-for-1 with the Mage. Doesn't really seem highly effective. And I always like that you point out that Noyotron is one of the very few 2-drops that scales really well into the late game. And like, let alone it's a mech. So if it gets to the point where you have to start weaving in hero powers every turn, you can like play it on turn 6 with the Goblin Blast Mage still, and you have a really strong, resilient board.
Spider Tank's gonna come down, and that's gonna set up a mech that's pretty resilient to pretty much everything. And that means you're going to pretty much be able to guarantee that...
Oh, man.
That Goblin Blast Mage turn next turn. And that Goblin Blast Mage is going to just wreck RDU.
Yeah, because RDU, like, he realizes that he could have Knife Juggler, Unleash the Hounds for so much value, but this is where the train stops, I believe.
Let's see it here. I don't really see any other
for
player.
Spiders. I don't know.
Is Trump going to be ultra greedy and go with a different play, hoping to set up Blast Mages for future turns? I don't really like that as much because you do have 2 Blast Mages, and I feel like you want to get them out as early as possible. Maybe Trump is considering whether he wants to freeze the phase here.
Right. I feel like it's not good to go for a halfway play, though. If you go for, like, killing only 1 spider and then Goblin Blast Maging, it has room to backfire if it misses and your opponent gets a lot of juggles. All right.
Those,
Kind of
those,
unlucky, actually. There were so
yeah.
many targets, and he hit only 2 of them.
Usually you kill at least 3 of them, I feel.
Right. And that's not even math. That's just like based off pure sample size of like thousands of games, but everyone's faced this scenario. Wow, face. Well, I mean, I think RDU is inviting his opponent to play a lot more minions so he can play Unleash the Hounds and Knife Juggler.
Yeah.
And there is a Blingtron, by the way, in this deck.
Yeah, normally you would just save the Bullfighter, but I think RDU actually wants to give his opponent a lot of mana in order to play out all those cards. He's, like you said, he's hoping to set up that Knife Juggler Unleashed, but unfortunately, this is still not a good Knife Juggler
Right.
Unleashed. Usually the Mech Mage has a lot of weaker minions, but because Trump drew into both Blast Mages, this is kind of close to a blowout in this situation.
Unless Juggler Miracles? No, even if it lands ideally.
That being said, now that both Goblin Blast Mages are gone, then Trump is actually going to have a really hard time dealing with these hounds.
But RD is also in jeopardy of dying because there's 13 damage on board.
He's playing afraid because Trump might as well have at least one Fireball or at least something that deals damage in his hands.
Right. Water Elemental is a great setup for the Blingtron. And if Trump respects RDU's Knife Juggler, which he should, and sets up Water Elemental, that could be his ticket to make sure that he seals up the series. Annoyotron going to stop any charger.
Yeah.
Might as well play the Clockwork Gnome.
Yeah, it rounds up the board, and you're not really afraid of the Knife Juggler Unleash combo anymore. This Noatron, probably the most annoying card in the game for Face Hunter. You kind of you want to silence it, but it's essentially like trading a 2-mana minion for a 2-mana minion there.
So I guess RDU is contemplating if whether or not he should use up these cards so Quick Shot gets better, or even use Quick Shot now. Some of his cards are more expensive. Annoyotron is so clutch here. Holy cow. Stopping the Wolf Rider in his tracks.
Alright, we're going to see the awesome Blingtron.
Fiery War Axe versus...
versus...
Is there another Fiery War Axe? I don't know. That'd be so funny if it gave like Eagle Horn Bow or something like something normal that the hunter was gonna get anyways, and he drew it.
Yeah, it just seems like a standard weapon that has 2 charges, so I guess that's a Fire War Axe. Maybe it's a Glaive Zuka.
Could be.
Oh, Arcanine Reaper.
Dang, that's actually really good.
Really good, but unfortunately irrelevant because RDU can't attack. And unfortunately, RDU has to give up here, and Trump takes the final match of the day in a 3-2 victory.
Well, there you go. The finals that could have been. What if RDU faced off against Trump at the finals of Xfinity? Well, I guess we have one potential clue into that mystery. Trump takes the series 3-2 here and dethrones RDU from his hot streak. And maybe RDU is shaken up a little bit, but I don't think so. I think he's just a little bit upset the way things have gone. Probably could have definitely taken that series. And that wraps up the day. That is 4 series that we finished out. So why don't we recap what happened, Monk?
Well, yeah, the first series we had Tides of Time versus Life Coach, and unfortunately, Eddie couldn't help out Tides there, and he lost 0-3, including 2 losses with Face Hunter. Face Hunter losing some games, typically not what we see, but Life Coach bringing out the Mech Warrior was certainly a nice surprise. Then we had Kalento versus 6-0, and 6-0 actually played from Sea Story Cup. How did that go for 6-0 there?
6-0 3-0 pretty convincingly. Kalento lost a couple times with his trademarked Priest deck, which was unusual to say the least. Then in the previous series, we had a really fun one between... Sorry, what?
between
Oh,
Ping Ping Ho and
yeah, Ping
Tice.
Ping Ho, and yeah, so that one series was really fun. It was really close back and forth between Ping Ping Ho and Tice, trading games for games, and ended up being that Ping Ping Ho landed on the last one. And then finally we had Trump versus RDU, where RDU narrowly took out, Trump narrowly took out an RDU in a nail-biting 5-game set. So well done overall to Trump. And you know what? I guess another case for him being a player that people should not underestimate in competition.
Yeah, Trump has had some pretty good success over the past few weeks. He's doing fairly well in the Kinguin Pro League. He's doing fairly well here, even beating RDU. And he got top 4 in his recent tournament, the Xfinity Hearthstone Invitational. So getting way above average results, I would say, even though a tournament win has eluded him.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We want to give a big shout out to Nvidia. Make sure to check out all their cool products. You saw the stuff that the GeForce GTX as well as the Shield tablet. I got a chance to test that a little bit. Maybe I can talk a little bit more next week when I have some time to sit down even more. And thank you so much, Monk, for stepping in. Nimsh is traveling actually at the moment to Seat Story Cup. In fact, I'm pretty sure that if I turn my head to the right, I'll see his giant Polish form throughout the silhouette of the sunset here in Germany. Do you have any final words you want to say before we close out the stream?
I just want to say that if you like this this broadcast, all future broadcasts of the pro players in the Gfinity, in the Nvidia Hearthstone tournament will be on Wednesdays, between 8 and 12 PDT. You can tweet at Nvidia GeForce to talk about this tournament and give your comments, give your shout outs. And that's pretty much all I have for today, Frodan.
Yeah, that's right. You know, even saying, thank you or talking about what games you like really shows that engagement that they really enjoy. So make sure to do that, guys, if you have a spare minute or so. Also encourage the players. Congratulate Trump. Congratulate Ping Ping Ho. Congratulate Life Coach as well as Six. So great games overall. We'll see you guys next week for more NVIDIA. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.